Every classic set. Oh, I see you, actually. So I've got a special guest ready for you guys. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me fine?
I can hear you. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. You just won 2 in a row.
Yeah, I did. That was great. Actually, I think.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This is so much fun.
Glad you like it.
So, did this really only take one day of you guys working on it?
So the rule was that anyone who wanted to work on it was allowed to, but they had to cap their time at one day. So it kind of went in a bit of a factory line where someone makes a map for a day and then hands it over to the people who set up the monsters for a day and so on. So it was put together over a week and a half or so in people's spare time, capped at about 8 hours per person. I think one person hit 12, but we're going to round that to a day, and it fit the joke in the video to say 1 day of development.
Wow, that's amazing. So, like, I was obviously, you guys told me that something was happening, but I had no idea. So when I saw the video, I was like, wait, really? I was expecting some short race or something.
Well, the goal was to have something exciting for people to play that's different than normal, and I mean, in this case, we've got to make a joke about how every game is throwing in a Battle Royale mode because it's super easy and makes the game 100 times better, so why not do it to Path of Exile?
But now, like, you have to keep this, right?
Well, that's what people are saying. Is it actually fun enough to have as a permanent thing? I mean, there's some real rough edges here. It was put together pretty quickly. Like, surely it's going to get tiring after even 5 or 6 hours.
I mean, do you have my chat open right now?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, yeah. Do you guys want him to keep it? Like, what do you guys want? Do you guys want this in the game? Like, I'm loving it. I'm having a lot of fun. And, like, if this is, like, the first iteration, like, you could, like, there's so much more that can be done with this.
Yeah, we have ideas for what we do if we spent more time on it. We've avoided throwing them in here, partly because we had this working and the team knew it was a lot of fun. In fact, the last week in the office, people have been crowding around the guys playing it each evening and having these big games. And it's amazing to see people who haven't even played Path of Exile on the team. Like, they just come to work, do some art, and go home, enjoying playing this and getting their first immersion in the game because they love Battleground-style games.
Yeah.
So we definitely see the appeal of it. Yeah, there's a lot of things we could improve with the mode. It's just a matter of diverting development resources. This has actually been kind of expensive, not because of the development time, but because the servers are a lot heavier than normal ones. Like, having 100 players in an area was a new thing for us. And so we put a bunch of, I think I allocated like $10,000 a day or so to servers to keep this up. And so we'll probably have to find a way of funding it somehow if we are keeping it as a long-term thing, or maybe it'll just be relatively unpopular and then, you know, it doesn't really have that much. But at the moment, it's certainly having a lot of people playing.
Yeah, no, it's super fun, and you could set up like MTX profiles so people could have MTXs like already on their characters and stuff. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, we're probably going to wrap that into the streamlining of character creation, so it just like zeroes your previous character out, and you can play again with the same MTXs, but none of the items and skills and so on. So that way you don't have to keep recreating; you just hit replay.
So, have you been playing this yourself as well?
Yeah, the best I've come is about 5th. Not very good at it, but keep getting interrupted by having to look into stuff.
Just get split shot, it's great.
Yeah, I got a tabula, that was a lot of fun, so now
nice.
Some guy got that from me.
Oh, yeah, no, I've been like playing around with all the different classes, so I managed to win on everything except Templar so far, so it's pretty viable, it's pretty fun.
Nice. Yeah, it's been really cool to see the community enjoying it so much, and we have a bunch of plans if we are going to be bringing it back at some point. I mean, at the moment it's an April Fool's joke, so it's sticking around until the end of April Fool's Day. In, I think, West Coast America is the last point to leave.
Right.
April 1st, so that's, I don't know, another 26 and a half hours or so. But it's possible that we could bring it back in the future. We'd want to fix a bunch of stuff, of course.
Yeah, like there would have to be some balancing, I guess. Split hour is a little broken right now. I mean, I feel like shrapnel shot is actually stronger, but hey.
Yeah, one idea we had was actually to come up with a custom passive tree for it. So instead of using the normal Path of Exile tree, where you can barely reach like 95% of it in 10 levels, we'd come up with a custom one. That way you can have, like, you know, significant chance to avoid chill as a choice you can make early on.
That'd
so
be
you
cool.
Can, you know, meta against cold and so on and so on.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. You could also have like higher level ones where you like start with slightly higher level, or like able like a different skill set and stuff too. There's so much. There's so much fun with this.
Cool. And of course, there's more variation we can have for the island and stuff. I mean, that one's thrown together pretty quickly. It's actually been a very interesting challenge tech-wise to support such large instances that consume so much memory and have so many players playing in them. Because previously we had a limit of 32 players per area. We were using 32-bit numbers to store which players were visible from certain locations. So that required a bit of a revamp to support 100 players.
Yeah, this could be how we level Leo.
Nice.
So like, is this something you want to work more on? Like, do you like the community feedback for this?
People have been very positive, especially in other communities as well. Like looking at subreddits other than Path of Exile, people have said positive things about it and tried their game out. So, I mean, it's always good for there to be more ways to play Path of Exile, but our plan wasn't to throw this out there and then expect people to demand that it becomes permanent. We're legitimately actually keeping it up for just one day, and then we'll have a good think about whether or not there's a place long term.
Yeah.
It is something we could bring back from time to time as a special event, of course. Or, I mean, we don't want to deny people fun. If they're enjoying it and it's actually a sustainable thing long term, then of course it's something we can keep in some form. Maybe it's the start of several different modes, potentially, but
Yeah.
I mean, our immediate goal was just, we're in the business of entertainment. Let's entertain people and hopefully have a nice surprise where, like, there's this 2-level thing where we announce the mode as a joke, but then the mode's actually real.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't believe it for a very long time. I was kind of like, huh?
What was awesome is it got leaked on Reddit and everyone downvoted the thread and said that can't be real, and the thread went away.
Oh, that's a little unfortunate as well, though.
But it was hilarious because no one believed it, and that you can tell it's a good joke when people think it's too outrageous.
Yeah, I thought it would be something with cats or something again.
Yeah, well, we had some ideas. We actually changed to this one. We had another idea for April Fools that we've been planning to do for a while, which tied a little bit into the Bestiary League. And then that, well, long story short, we'll do that some other time because it's kind of something we can do years from now if we need to. And Jonathan suggested that we do the whole like throw Battle Royale and Path of Exile trick because he'd worked out that it was actually pretty easy to do. And I said, well, no, I'm against this. We can only do this if you've got like one day of development budget for it because we're really busy working on 3.3.0 and that kind of stuff. And he worked out how we could do it and then it got done. So my contribution to this was vetoing it.
All right. So back when like you posted a Reddit thread saying we need more of this, is that when this like event like started, or like with something special for April Fool's started, or?
So that was related to just racing in general, when we were really enjoying the Invitational that Tencent put together. And so the desire to have more racing is more legitimate racing as opposed to the Battle Royale stuff. This started getting put together a couple of weeks ago, like really close to April Fool's Day, when Jonathan worked out the plan of how he wanted it to work, and then people started doing bits and pieces over time. And most of it was made while we were overseas at GDC last week.
Right.
The team were having a great time working on it while we were away.
Well, that's super fun. Like obviously getting really good community feedback, and I haven't seen this many people try to log in at the same time, so it's great, really, really fun. So I was wondering, does that mean there is more races coming then, and like events?
I'm super keen for there to be more races. We're still working out the right way to do this, of course. It's something we're going to have to do in tandem with the community. But I would expect some type of flashback-like event, I guess, towards the end of this current league. I don't know the exact details. I'm not the one arranging that, but expect some kind of decent event towards the end of Bestiary before we launch 3.3.0. And then in terms of regular races, our goal is to work towards maybe not having full race seasons, but the ability for there to be races where the community can become invited to the good races that have prizes. And then we have our core of like, people that are invited that are very good at racing, who everyone can celebrate and stream and so on.
Oh.
So we certainly want racing to be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you participated in the Invitational yourself, right?
Yeah.
That was awesome. We were cheering for you.
Yeah, until the explosions came.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's a lot of fun. That's one of the things that we've kind of missed recently because we've been focusing so much on getting just leagues out and expansions and not doing superfluous stuff. So our goal is to kind of inject the fun back into the community by creating random stuff like this. We've got all these random other ideas that we can do where we'll just surprise people on a random Sunday with a new mode.
Yeah.
And that would be nice because then people never really know what to expect from Path of Exile, and it gives them more stuff to do in addition to the core action RPG stuff.
Yeah, I think something at least a lot of the players, or at least speak for myself here, where something that's been a little weird with some of the events has been that they roll back into standard or hardcore and not into the challenge league.
Right.
That would be something that would be nice if it's something that ends before the challenge stage is over.
Yeah, I understand. So you're not taking time away from your challenges in order to do an event which doesn't contribute.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, that's one of the logistics we'll have to sort out, but it's probably fine. As long as the challenges merge correctly or however that needs to work, then it's probably possible.
yeah. No, that's super cool. I'm very excited for like everything to do with racing, and obviously I hadn't even considered the idea of a battle royale in PoE. That's great, genius concept.
That's partly what makes it a good surprise, I guess, is that it is a lot easier to make than it is to think of to some extent.
Oh, someone in chat made a great point actually. Please express how badly we want the latter version of Endgame that China has, where you fight harder and harder bosses. I think a lot of us actually want to try that.
I'm interested in trying to work something out. The China version is kind of specific to the specification they had, where it's one of those things where when you hear about it, you think of that is awesome, but it's not necessarily as awesome as you think until, like you have a character built for it correctly, because it kind of rewards you having a character that's really good at that mode. And so our goal, if we're bringing that kind of thing in, would be to make sure that it supports a diverse range of character builds. I think that things that are coming up in future leagues will help appease a little bit of that desire, but we're certainly aware of the fact that it's worth trying to port that race event across.
You're saying Righteous Fire would not be a good build for this?
You really want to use Righteous Fire?
For everything, it's great. It's
Nice.
getting nerfed, isn't it?
I honestly am not involved in the balance stuff, but I have told the guys to be much more clear with the balance changes this time around up front. So I'm getting them to write weekly articles, initially focusing on skill revamps and so on, to talk about the balance changes over the coming weeks. Because previously, this is becoming a bit of a rant, but previously we would hold back all the significant information until we've announced what the league was.
Yeah.
So we're still going to hold back what the league is, but we're happy to talk a lot more about what the scope of 330 is. So the only thing that's a mystery is the league.
All right.
Because that way people have a good idea what direction to take their future characters and what kind of things we're working on.
And have you been able to, I know you've been traveling a lot, but have you had time to play Bestiary League at all?
I played it during its development, which, as you can imagine, was a pretty rough ride because we kept changing how it worked right up until a week or two before launch, which contributed to some of the problems with it. But at the moment, the playtesting has been on the Royale stuff, and also 330 is actually in a pretty good state now, which is really good, because having a league testable and iteratable on this early means it's going to get a ton more attention and polish than
really good.
other leagues have in the past when they're ready quite late. In fact, our intention is to actually do some community testing of 330, both to improve it and also to validate the fact that people can say, yeah, I can't talk about it, but I've played it and it's solid. And we really want the community members to be able to say that. Having said that, please don't apply for alpha access, because every time I mention this, there's a flood of people applying for alpha, and all that does is rule them out. Like, we have enough alpha testers, there's no need to volunteer yourself.
Well, that's great. I'm very excited for everything. I don't know if, do we want to take any questions from chat or anything?
I'm totally fine to.
Any great questions from chat, feel free to DM them or just like write answers in chat and we'll see if we can grab anything. Bring back to Resto and make it a championship for the Sword Crown.
Just reading the questions.
Dota 2 game mode.
That would be a lot more work, actually. I mean, as you can imagine, the Royale mode was relatively straightforward to put together, because all it takes is a giant island. We already had the level generation, we already had combat, we had some form of balanced-ish PvP already.
Do you want to tease any of the skills that are being reworked?
I probably don't know enough about it myself in order to do that, but the team are targeting 9 with mechanical reworks at the moment, and there's always the ability to make numerical changes to others as required, plus a few other things that are being reworked we haven't talked about so far. I'm pretty confident that, because what we want to do is both rework a bunch of stuff in the short term so that people have a lot of new builds to play, but also get a good schedule going so people know the reworks every league, because we want to make sure that regardless of what the league content is, there are lots of new ways to play Path of Exile, and that way, even if the league isn't for you, there's a bunch of new builds to play. Having said that, we're very, very happy with the next league. I think that it'll definitely be a fan favorite. And I'm hoping that with actions rather than words, you guys will get a chance to agree with me once you try it out.
That's awesome. I'm very excited to try it. A lot of
Yeah.
people
Oh,
are
it's very
asking.
much back to the roots of how Path of Exile leagues work as well, I think.
Oh, cool. A lot of people are asking about squads in Battle Royale.
We looked into the idea of supporting parties and stuff so that you have the ability to play with your friends, and that was something that was deferred to the maybe in the future if the players persuade us to bring it back kind of list, because it's a lot more complicated. Like getting support for that may have been harder than actually making the entire mode. It'll be a lot of fun, of course, but that's something we can do if we can make it a sustainable thing,
Yeah.
and that means having it fun enough that people will keep playing it beyond the first day or two when it's a novelty.
Have you guys already started discussing whether Bestiary League is gonna start like stay in the game?
We wait longer before we make that decision. It's pretty modular to keep that kind of thing in or out, and it's totally fine to have it or not have it depending on what people think. I honestly don't know how I feel about it myself, and I'm not the person making that final decision, so it could go either way. There's always the ability to not have it and then to bring it back later. Special
Yeah.
events, you can turn it on for a week, you can have it on Zana, blah blah blah. A lot of the attention internally is going towards planning out the next leagues because we're trying very hard to make sure that they're much ready much earlier. That will resolve a lot of the problems that occurred quality-wise with Bestiary.
There's a lot of questions about the Uber Elder fight, like the fact that the cone that the Uber Elder does is currently a slow, which makes the only things to avoid it is Chrome's Roots or Juggernaut. Have you guys looked into changing that to maybe a phrase or something?
I'm pretty sure the team have been discussing it, but that's totally above my pay grade in terms of the balance guys understanding that stuff
Right.
and me not really being familiar with it. So the best I can do is say, yeah, the guys discuss this kind of stuff, but I honestly don't understand it. I haven't played Uber Elder myself.
Another great question. Why is there no portal out of the Uber Elder? Is there supposed to be like a cutscene or credits there?
No, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not very useful when it comes to the Uber Elder stuff.
That is fair. See what other
The people
questions.
who handle that content are the people who play through to the mid-90s or late 90s each league and grind Uber Elder and have all the uniques and basically just understand it as a player. I know of it as a point on the back of the box of I'm pretty sure our game has an awesome fight at the end kind of thing. But most of my play goes to late yellow maps.
Right. Yeah, it must be hard to find time to play when you seem to work a lot.
Oh, it's fun and rewarding to do so though. I enjoy the item upgrading a lot.
Um, what else we have here? Is cross-instance trading something you're still working on? Like if someone's in lab and stuff like that?
I do want to resolve the situation where a lot of people are AFK because they're playing in, say, Royale or Lab or whatever. That is certainly an issue, which is hampering trade, though we have to be careful balancing it against making trade too accessible, because currently, as I'm sure you can see when people are playing, there's quite a lot of progression that's skipped by trading. You get situations where if you're playing solo self-foundish and then you were to go and start trading, you can triple your DPS really fast just by dropping a couple of items on. So at the moment, we're not directly working on the improvement you're suggesting, partly because we have a lot on our plate already, but it is a problem that we have on the horizon where when someone's in lab, they just can't complete the trade.
Right. Oh, actually, that's a great question. Are you guys aware of the Elder Ring feature?
I see this on Reddit and it's being discussed, but that falls under the Uber Elder stuff that I'm personally not getting myself involved in.
Yeah.
The team do see all the feedback on Reddit because they sit there with it open all day, which is both positive and negative, of course. But
Reddit
nothing.
can be rough.
There's nothing important there that we're unaware. I mean, for example, right now I can see two guys fixing a bug in crafting, which was just reported on Reddit a little while ago. That'll be fixed within 40 minutes of it getting posted on Reddit so that it can't be abused. So they are trying very hard. Bearing in mind as well, this is Easter Sunday in New Zealand.
Yeah.
If something hits Reddit, it generally gets seen as quickly as if it hit the patch notes, the bug reports forum on our site.
What about a couple of people asking about things like damage logs and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's been a common request over the years. I understand why, because people are wanting to min-max their skills and understand exactly how it's dealt. It's more complicated because a lot of damage is dealt through damage over time and stuff like that, and we start to have some really EVE Online level, spreadsheet kind of damage logs required for you to fully understand it. And then people's comprehension of the skills is as good as the damage logging is, and it becomes a thing where we have to keep the damage logging to be completely correct. And and so on and so on. And then the other thing is people wanting to understand what killed them. Like, what was the one hit that took them out?
Yeah.
We actually have that on the China server where when you get killed, it prints the monster that killed you and what mods it has. So you can look at it and go, oh, it was corrupting blood or something like that. And one of the issues with this approach is it's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, it's the monster that did the last point of damage to you, which is not necessarily the thing that put you in mortal danger.
Right.
You could get almost one hit by one guy and then killed by degen, and
sense.
You see degen as the reason and start speaking against that when in actual fact it's the slam that got you.
Right, that makes sense. Somebody else brought up a good point as well. Have you guys thought about either allowing auto clickers or letting us have some sort of auto fusing thing in game? Because obviously using 1,000 or 2,000 fusings regularly actually like starts hurting your hand after a while.
Yeah, I understand. There is Varici who can apply a lot of these in one go, but I get the point. If you're wanting to fuse manually and you want to stop at a certain point, at the moment you just have to click 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Don't use a macro for that, because that gets you at least locked for a while with a stern warning, if not banned, depending on whether it's the first time. But I think that it's probably worth bringing up with the team to make sure that they understand that people's wrists are getting destroyed by their desire for 6 links.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I make a lot of jokes about that on stream, and like, I'll say you're like literally holding down shift with my foot and then spam clicking, so it's a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah, at least it's been easier to acquire 6 links this league because we've been pretty aggressive with beast crafting to provide alternate ways.
Yeah, no, like I've enjoyed a lot of the beast crafting. I actually think there's a bug I need to message you about that I just realized today. Kind of bad, but yeah.
Sure, I'm always happy to hear about
that. Yeah. Practice dummies and hideout and stuff like that. A lot of people want.
Practice dummies are the same thing as damage logging. They want the ability to see exactly how much damage the skills are doing, which I can understand. At the moment, it's pretty much play in maps and see how fast you can kill, and then that's, how good your skills are. I just want to make sure if we're ever doing that damage logging, we have to do it well. Like, it has to be actually accurate and correct. And that's tricky because, as you know, our DPS estimates that are in the game client aren't always perfect. So if there's skills that... It's kind of more complicated as well, because if a skill can hit multiple targets, the damage logs and our estimates of DPS aren't going to accurately reflect it, because your actual practical DPS is based on the size of the packs you're fighting and their own characteristics.
Right. Yeah, I can see that being hard. But if not target dummies, then what about like mannequins? Because we have like at least there's a lot of us that have like at least like 5 or 6 armor sets we aren't currently using on characters. That'd be pretty cool to put on like decorations. For
sure. And we have improvements to hideouts planned. There's actually quite a big list of when we get around to it. We're making all these changes to hideouts, which people will love. I mean, it's too early to talk about it, but at some stage, hideouts are getting a significant polish pass. And I can't promise mannequins and that polish pass, but it's on the list, especially because it's a revenue-driving feature.
Right.
Hideout decoration sales haven't been great historically compared to things like stash tabs. Like, obviously, the average player buys way more stash tabs than they do for, like, Brutus's Cradle or something. But mannequins, of course, let them take advantage of existing armor sets that they've won from events or purchased or gotten supporter packs.
Cool. Yeah, no, hopefully a lot of that is going good. There's been a lot of cool MTX wins. The Sin and Instance sets are pretty cool.
Yeah, that's been really, really popular. It's actually hard to design mystery boxes and so on now because there's been so much awesomeness creep from the previous boxes. To keep bettering it each time is very difficult. It started out with like, here's some green stuff, and then here's some blue stuff where we made a couple of new ones, and so on and so on. And now it's like, here is our best work. Every single thing is unique to the box, and then there's combined versions of all of it, and so on and so on.
Someone is asking, is it currently possible to finish the Krilson line?
There's a reason we recorded all that extra voice acting that they haven't unlocked. Let's just say that, but I'm not going to give any more information. I've got to go, unfortunately, fishing secrets and all.
Okay, that's a good note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us and taking some questions. That was very out of the blue, and thank you for coming with no preparation with all that. That was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Enjoy the Royale mode, and I'm sure we'll get a chance to chat again in the near future.
Yep, I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
All right, cool. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. That was awesome. That was awesome. Just like, he was like randomly like, oh, I can talk after this game if you want. And I was like, sure, why not? We won the last one, so we only have